is a retired domestic.
You gotta realize I was just a kid when it happened. I never even seen the last fish but once, you know, and that was after it was stuffed. I remember they had one hell of a time getting Guff to give it up. He was yelling and carrying on about how he'd eat it if he wanted to, and they could catch their own fish to hang in City Hall if they wanted it. Finally, some university professors took the fish and they put it in a secret tank out in Folly Cove. At least that's what my mother said. She's dead now.
Matthew Warntz was mayor of Gloucester.
When Jim Cutter had brought word that Guff had caught himself a real fish, me and the missus were just setting dinner over some roast beef. At first I'm thinking, it's a joke. But Cutter's so excited, I decide to go take a look. I can't tell you how exciting it was to see that fish. All air strong and splashing up a storm in Guff's cooler. Flounder, that's what the professor said it was. It had been so long, none of us could be sure. Guff Biggs was out on the rocks with his tackle every Sunday, laughed at for a fool. It was pathetic to be going off like that when the papers and the TV said there was no fish left. He had to dig his own bait, of course, and haunt the antique stores for hooks and sinkers, but he kept at it. Common sense prevailed, despite the excitement. The cops took Guff's fish into protective custody, much over his objection. Someone suggested we take it over to the Oceanographic Lab at Lanesville, so that's what we did.
Professor Emeritus John Littlefield was in his late 20s at the time.
At first, I thought it was just another prank. But then I recognized Matt Wanson's voice, so we drove over. Then we were excited. Male flounder, rather young, about 2 kilos. Guff Biggs was livid, yelling that he had to eat the fish or die. Of course, Guff was a little bit off, even when he wasn't agitated. We had problems keeping the fish alive, correcting its habitat, maintaining physical control over the specimen from the military and so forth. Of course, when the damn thing died, everyone lost interest. To this day, I don't know what killed that fish. We wrote it up as natural causes, standard feeble excuse. The mayor requested that the body be stuffed and mounted, It's still over at City Hall, I believe.
I've never been a man that had much, but I can't forget that day. They used to laugh at me fishing, but none of them ever tried it. Any damn fool who really looked at that water could tell there was fish left. Me and that fish talked to each other for years. He'd go on about being sick to death of staying alone, scrounging for food. He had a low voice, like waves in a storm. All you had to do was listen. Back when there was whole schools of fish, you couldn't pick out a single voice, understand. But when they began to die off, the sound got a lot thinner. I guess the fish were almost gone when I first heard my fish. Then there was only one other fish. Split its time twixt Ipswich and Folly Cove in Waynesville. Figured it for a small state. Voice too high for anything else. Its voice got so weak, it was only a trail of bubbles. And nothing for 2 weeks. Sure enough, they went crazy over in Essex a few days later when some kid found it on the beach. Skate, 2 pounds or so, already stiff and beginning to curl. After that, me and my fish got closer all the time. He told me everything there was to being a fish. He told me when he would let me catch him. When he took the bait, he left it to me to set the hook. He thought he'd die the instant I took him out of the water. That's what they were taught. I'll never get it out of my head how those professor men came and took him. He should have been eaten, like he wanted. It was my fish, that's all. What they did. That's why all the fish died in the first place. Taking things away, I mean. I hope they're all enjoying where their greed has took them.
The last word rests